Good evening and thank you for joining us on another edition of the program Capital Market. I'm Temple Ashaju. Before we start, let's give you the breaking news we have right now on our radar. That the appeal court in Abuja has affirmed Yahaya Bello's election as Kogi State Governor after dismissing the 4 appeals challenging his victory. Now, the 5-man panel of the Court of Appeal dismissed the appeals filed by the Action People's Party, People's Democratic Party, Democratic People's Party, and Social Democratic Party for failing to prove allegations of electoral malpractice in the election. Well, this week, the Nigerian Stock Exchange listed the bonds of Lapo Microfinance Bank, some SPV 6.2 billion naira, 13% fixed rate Series 2 bond. Now, the issuance of this bond is the second in the series of a senior unsecured bond program of the Microfinance Bank, which focuses on microcredits. Now, the bond listing was implemented virtually with the Chief Executive of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Oscar Onyema, in attendance, as well as the doyen of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Rashid Yusuf. But joining us now to examine the bond issue is the Chief Executive of Lapo Microfinance Bank himself, Mr. Godwin, Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusue, who closed the trading session virtually on Monday in commemoration of the listing. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on the program this evening. And permit me to say congratulations to you on the listing of the Series 2 of your bond on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So, well, first of all, talk to us about the success of this outing. I mean, this is the second in the series for you at your bank. How successful was the bond issuance and, of course, the listing? Okay, looks like we're having some connection problem there, but then let's move on and look at some of the stories that we've got. This week, the Nigerian Stock Exchange reconstituted the constituents of its various sectoral indices. Now, the biannual exercise this time shows Julius Berger as the replacement for Transcore Nigeria in the NSE 30 index. On the Nigerian Industrial Index, Notori Chemical takes the spot of Premier Paints PLC, while Lafarge, known as WAPCO, and Chemical and Allied Products join the Lotus Islamic Index in place of 11 PLC that used to be known as Mobile and NACO Avians. Now, new entrants in the corporate governance index includes Julius Berger, MTN Nigeria, NEM Insurance PLC, and NPF Microfinance Bank. Others are Royal Exchange and Suno Assurances. Now, on the other hand, Meristem Growth Index received GT Bank and Julius Berger, as Dangote Sugar Refinery joins the Meristem Value Index, while other sectors remain unchanged in the markets. Now, we were talking to the chief executive and founder of Lapo Microfinance Bank, who, of course, they got their bond listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Monday, the 29th of June this week. And this is something that we are tracking because this is microfinance bank that is also being hit by the recapitalization demand of the National Insurance Commission. Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusue joins us now for this conversation. So talk to us about the outing this time, Dr. Ehigiamusue. How was it and how successful was the issuance? So talk to us about the outing for your second series of your bonds, 6.2 billion naira. We understand that it was oversubscribed. Give us the details. Okay, let's go further on some other stories that we have. Financial institutions associated with the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano gas project that was commissioned during the week by President Muhammadu Buhari have been expressing their confidence on the reality of the project. Now, clearing the air on the concerns of investors around the Nigerian Gas Master Plan project, NSE-listed bank, Fidelity Bank Executive Director for the North, Mr. Hassan Imam, says the AKK project will not only boost our power generation, but also help in ramping up efforts toward local content development through the financial support to OilServe, one of the counterparts of the $2.8 billion project. Let's listen.
This is a $2.5 billion project. Is actually part of federal government gas master plan, which is aimed at boosting domestic gas supply and then improve the infrastructure deficit in oil and gas sector. More importantly, is actually done to ensure adequate supply of gas to the northern part of the country, to equally improve infrastructure and boost power generation. So it's a very important project. At Fidelity Bank, we are very proud to be associated with this project. We're happy to support our customer OilServe in providing and meeting their financial requirement in terms of bonds and guarantees, letters of credits, and even meeting some critical funding requirements.
Now, shareholders of Transcorp Hotels have unanimously raised or authorized the board of directors of the company to raise some 10 billion naira in its proposed rights issue to fortify its balance sheet. Now, the approval given at the extraordinary general meeting of the company, which took place on Monday, 29th of June 2020 in Lagos, shows that with this approval, the company will be able to raise some 2.65 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each by way of a rights issue to the shareholders based on 7 new ordinary shares for every 20 ordinary shares of 50 kobo each held at a price of 3 naira 76 kobo per share. And the shares will be issued from the authorized share capital of the company, which is currently at 7.5 billion naira, comprising 15 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. And the resultant issued and fully paid up share capital will be 5.129 billion naira, consisting of 10.259 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. Now let's try to rejoin our guest again, Dr. Godwin Ehigiamuse, who is the founder and chief executive of Lapo Microfinance Bank. This week, the GOTS listed their bonds of 6.2 billion naira on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And of course, in attendance was the chief executive officer of the exchange himself, Oscar Onyema, as well as the doyen of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Rashid Yusuf. Of course, they commemorated the listing with the virtual closing gong ceremony due to the remote trading platform that the exchange is currently now leveraging. Now let's join Mr. Dr. Godwin Ehigiamuse for a conversation. Dr. Ehigiamuse, thank you again for joining us. But let's look at how successful this outing was for you this time. 6.2 billion naira bond.
Thank you so much for having me. It was quite successful. We actually went for 6 billion and we eventually raised 6.2 billion. For me, and also especially coming from an industry that is the microfinance sector, it is an expression of confidence and trust, not only in Lapo, but also in the microfinance sector.
Well, tell us about the issue. I mean, the previous one, has that been really redeemed, and how were the proceeds used?
We actually, it is a program. It's actually a program. The first series was 3.1 billion, and we for 5 years. And we are in the process of redeeming that. We've been able to deploy that, to fund our clients who are majorly in the micro and small enterprise sector. And we also strongly believe that what we have raised now, that is the 6.2 billion, would assist us to expand our outreach and fund our clients.
This is not your first time you're participating in the debt capital market, but one will literally expect that you could have also done some kind of a listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Why the option of a bond?
Eventually come, but it is important to also, that will eventually come. It's important to also look at the process we have taken. First of all, we started as a non-profit using grants. Eventually, we went for debt, relationship with financial institutions, both local and international. We've got to a point of going to the capital market now. We ultimately believe that not too long, Lapo Microfinance Bank will be listed on the stock exchange. We look forward to that.
And that's something that a lot of your depositors and, of course, clients that have benefited from your retail credit offerings will be looking forward to. Perhaps if it's an IPO, they will really be looking forward to participate in that. But then let's look at the fact that there is a recapitalization exercise ongoing in your sector. Is this bond part of your plans to meet those recapitalization demands as churned out by the National Insurance Commission?
Certainly not for that. Certainly not for the recapitalization purposes. The reason is clear. The central bank has come up with the minimum capitalization for National Microfinance Bank that will come into effect in 2021. That is, National Microfinance Bank would have a minimum capitalization of 5 billion. Lapo Microfinance Bank does not have any issue with that because, as we speak, the shareholders' fund of Lapo Microfinance Bank is in excess of 20 billion. What we have therefore done, or we will do with this fund we have raised through this bond issuance, is to implement a number of new products that we have developed. We have come up with new products that would support micro and small enterprises in agriculture. We are also focusing on SME, especially those in the educational sector. So basically, we don't have an issue with capitalization in the microfinance sector.
It's surprising that you're coming up with all of these products or offerings at this point in time when we have a lot of uncertainties really orchestrated by the pandemic, COVID-19 in the system. Is that to say that you're not being hit by the pandemic in any ways?
We are, but I think it's also important to I think it's also important to recognize the fact that in spite of the challenges, especially the lower end of the economy, that is with the owners of micro and small enterprises, we must recognize, and we have come to see that in Lapo for over 30 years.
So I'm afraid we have to take this short break, but then we'll be back to continue the conversation with you in a moment.
That sound.
Welcome back to the program. This is Capital Market Live on Channels Television. Before we went on break, we had a guest with us, the Chief Executive and Founder of Lapo Microfinance Bank, Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusue, whose company got its 6.2 billion naira bond listed this week on Monday precisely on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and they had the honor of closing the trading session on Monday. But then the conversation was mainly around how the pandemic has been affecting the MFBs lately. Doctor, let's continue that conversation. You were talking to us about how the COVID-19 pandemic has hit you at the MFB level. Can you talk to us more about that?
Yes, it did. At the height of the lockdown, we had to close all our operations across the country. We needed to do that, considering the fact that our interaction with our clients is usually very intensive. And so we closed down for 2 months. But again, we are back with the ease of the lockdown. And we need to also, at this point, recognize and acknowledge the resilience of these incredible actors at the lower end of the economy. Many of them are already up and running, working their way out of poverty, and Lapo Microfinance Bank is solidly behind them. For instance, in this month of June, the month of June, we've been able to disburse close to 10 billion to these people. We strongly believe that they are out for business, and we needed to really support them with loans.
So how are you coping with the rising level of non-performing loans in your sector at the moment?
We are applying various strategies to see how we can address that. The first thing is that for a week, we intensely engage our clients across the country. We wanted to understand from their own perspective, not just what we believe is true, how they were affected by the lockdown. Having understood that, we came up with a number of strategies. First of all, keep them to do business. They need to be doing what they are doing before they can talk about, repayment. So we are very optimistic. We are already seeing the figure, that is the non-performing ratio figures gradually coming down. We have confidence in their abilities not only to meet their repayment commitment, especially for existing loan, and also looking forward to supporting them with additional loans.
Once you're leveraging to manage or mitigate these risks, are you looking at amortization? Are you restructuring the loans of some of these microcredit obligors, or you're even carrying out some form of write-backs?
Sure. It's a combination of all these interventions. The first thing is that we restructure generally. That is to say that we were not expecting repayments as when due, especially during the lockdown, which was understandable. And so we are applying various strategy to ensure that at the end of the day, we should be able to come out strong. Not only Lapo coming out strong, also for our clients.
So let's go back to the issue of recapitalization as demanded by NICOM. Some of you have got 1 year, some have 2 years now to meet the deadline. But how receptive are operators to this, especially those that have been able to identify some new investors like private equity firms to inject funds in their current structure in a bid to meet this demand?
Yeah. For the microfinance bank, the issue of recapitalization as directed by the Central Bank of Nigeria has been an issue under discussion, especially within the National Association of Microfinance Banks. We have also actively engaged the regulators on this, and to the credit of the Central Bank of Nigeria, it has been incredibly responsive, to our demand and our concerns. So we strongly believe that many institutions are already making progress, because it's more like, in phases. Many institutions are making progress. Obviously, many are also having some challenges. We strongly believe that at the end of the day, several institutions, with the support of the association, with the understanding of the central bank, will be able to meet those capitalization requirements.
Right. So let's get your perspectives about the second half of the year in terms of the macroeconomy, given all of these uncertainties that has now surrounded the investment environment. What's your outlook for the rest of the year, Dr. Ehigiamusoi?
I think, first of all, I will begin with the sector I'm quite familiar with. For LAPO, it is important to also note at this point that on Tuesday this week, I visited the leadership of the LAPO Microfinance Bank. But I do know that our projections, our optimism is based on the fact that our clients, as I've noted earlier, are quite resilient. We have seen that. We've also had an experience in Sierra Leone when you have the Ebola, because we have a LAPO microfinance company also in Sierra Leone. We had learned some lessons from there. We strongly believe that the economic activities will gradually come up. We do hope that we do not have a second round of the pandemic. If we do not have that, we eventually come up.
Are your folks going to be talking to the central bank to request for further extension of the deadline for the recapitalization? Do you see anything like that happening?
Well, that dominates the conversation within the sector at the moment, that there is need to have some concessions, some understanding from central bank. I do also know that given the level of responses the central bank has actually given to issues and concerns of microfinance banks or the operators in the microfinance sector, we think that we will get a positive response. They've already given us some concession in terms of rescheduling the period for recapitalization, but obviously we will need more concessions.
All right, Chief Executive of LAPO Microfinance Bank, Dr. Godwin Ehige-Amusue, thank you so much for joining us on the program, for making our time with us on the program this evening. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Before we went on, before the conversation, we told you earlier that the Nigerian Stock Exchange this week reconstituted the constituents of its various sectoral indices. And of course, the biannual exercise this time shows Julius Berger as the replacement for Transcorp Nigeria in the NSE 30 index. While on the industrial index, we have Notori Chemical, which takes the spot of Premier Paints, Lafarge PLC, and Chemical and Allied Products join the Lotus Islamic Index in place of 11 PLC and NACO Avians. New entrants in the Corporate Governance Index include Julius Berger, MTN Nigeria, NEM Insurance, and NPF Microfinance Bank. Others are Royal Exchange, which is an insurance company, and Suno Assurances. And on the other hand, the Meristem Growth Index receives GT Bank and Julius Berger, as Dangote Sugar Refinery joins the Meristem Value Index, while other sectors remain unchanged. And that's it on the show for this weekend. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you next time. Bye.